Is this really a controversial take that 19-year-olds don't know shit, especially ones called big balls? I mean, I don't, we all seen these meme lords on the internet. So, being like an FBI counterterrorism expert for 20 years and then having to go into an office and have that like office space meeting where you justify your career to, these two lackeys, except in this case, they're teenagers, big balls, and his partner, Queefer Sutherland 420 or whatever. It's just, I'm not surprised that people kind of get their back up at that.
Piers Morgan had his usual panel of talking heads on to go over a variety of topics. I did another video on this about the Super Bowl and Taylor Swift's popularity versus Donald Trump. It's really something, so you should check that out. In this one, he's got California Congressman Ro Khanna on to talk about the DOGE children who are murdering our democracy. Sorry, did a little of my own personal political bent slip in there. Anyway, I will have other opinions that I will not be able to resist sharing. And then I want to know what you think in the comments, but let us check it out.
Well, let's talk about big balls then, because let me bring in Trae on this. On big balls, I've got no. If Elon Musk has identified some brilliant young geniuses, I mean, God, Mozart was what, 5 when he was writing some of his masterpieces.
So apparently, the people posting racist posts on Elon Musk's racist platform are Mozart's.
Why are we so ageist? Why can't a 19-year-old called Big Balls rampage his way through government overspending? It looks to me already like he's doing a rather good job, Big Balls.
Geez, Piers, why can't an 80-year-old president run the country?
I mean, I don't know. I just feel like this is a new idea that teenage boys are like, smart and have their shit together and stuff. I mean, I'm raising 2 teenage boys, and we're letting them like drive the economy. We won't let them drive rental cars. I don't know. Is this really a controversial take that 19-year-olds don't know shit, especially ones called big balls? I mean, I don't, we all seen these meme lords on the internet. So, being like an FBI counterterrorism expert for 20 years and then having to go into an office and have that like office space meeting where you justify your career to, these 2 lackeys, except in this case, they're teenagers, big balls, and his partner, Queefer Sutherland 420 or whatever. It's just, I'm not surprised that people kind of get their back up at that. I don't want a teenager, telling me anything. I mean, not the ones in my house, or just anywhere in general. I mean, you call it ageist if you want. I was a teenage boy too. I was a dipshit. This guy's coming straight out of Twitch lobbies.
The trouble is, there are a lot of teenage prodigy geniuses. You see them playing chess. You see them, Elon Musk was 10 when he wrote his first computer code.
Are there more trans athletes competing in sports or teenage geniuses in chess matches and so forth?
This idea they're all dipshits.
Right.
I just don't buy that.
They're still dumb about other things though. Like I graduated college with a 4.0. I was smart at some stuff and very dumb at many other things.
Yeah, but if Big Balls is very, very good at crunching numbers, what's wrong with him crunching numbers?
Can I jump in here? Because I think we're actually missing the point here. Like, I don't really care whether he's 18, 15, or 45. The government is incredibly wasteful, spends money on a ton of stupid shit that they shouldn't be doing. My problem here is the transparency in the process, right? We have an unelected South African billionaire that Donald Trump has given the keys to the castle. Trump doesn't know what's going on. Hell, yesterday on Twitter, Elon Musk got asked a question by a reporter about cutting NIH funding for cancer research, and Elon Musk had no idea what they were talking about. So my problem is you've got a guy who has a record of paying young people to do his work for him. Elon Musk literally was paying kids to play video games as him so he could seem cool to the gamer community. Now he's paying a bunch of kids to go cut government spending, and he doesn't know what they're cutting. And so the lack of transparency is the issue. I think everybody on this call agrees. Government's very wasteful.
Okay, listen, I'm going to hold you guys there. Okay, listen, I'm going to come back to you, Mercedes, for a reaction, but I've just got to bring in another guest briefly, which is Ro Khanna, the California Democrat congressman. Ro, great to have you back on Uncensored. This whole idea, Ro, of Elon Musk, of DOGE, of his young team of whiz kids led by big balls and so on, some people are laughing at it, some people are outraged, some people are all in favor. Where do you sit with it?
Well, look, I said that if Elon wants to help find wasteful spending and do a thorough examination of that, that's fine. I actually took some criticism from my own party for saying that I would be open to looking at what he finds, particularly in the Pentagon, but anywhere. The problem I have with it is that there are rules in our country. There's a constitution. You can't have people unilaterally stopping or pausing Treasury payments. And what he should do is, if he finds this absurd examples, come to Congress, expose it, and force us to vote on it.
Yeah, Piers, democracy.
I mean, look, there's no doubt from the polling around Trump, the majority of Americans are right behind this. They think the government has been way too bloated for way too long, and they quite like the idea of the richest, most successful guy in the history of America cutting his genius swathe through overspending.
Well, the polling is split. I acknowledge that Trump's personal approval and his job approval is over 50%. The numbers aren't quite as good for Musk. I mean, they're falling into the 30s. I once said to Elon he should stick to cars and Mars. But, I would love to have him find wasteful spending and come to Congress. I think what spooked people is when there was the portal shut for Medicaid for a few hours. I don't want to scare people. No, Medicaid's benefits have been cut or Social Security has been cut. But just the idea that they could do that and that a number of unelected officials could do that really spooked people around the country. And that is, I think, what has triggered such a backlash to what's happening. And my view is he can still fix it. He should just say, I will respect Congress's power off the purse. And that would reassure a lot of people.
But they don't actually have to do that, do they, legally?
Well, I think they do. Under the Constitution, there's a debate. The conservatives, some of the small group of conservatives say that what Congress's power under Article 1 is simply to set the maximum spending level. But the Impoundment Act says no, what Congress appropriates, the president has to spend. And it was litigated under Nixon. What I say to my conservative friends is imagine you had someone from the far left become president. Congress appropriates $900 billion for the Pentagon. This far left president says, no, I'm not going to spend that. I'm only going to spend $200 billion. I mean, give me a break. That would never be constitutional. Obviously, Congress needs to have the authority to spend the money and the executive branch should go along with it. I think this Supreme Court will affirm that.
Let's turn to the confirmation process. It looks like RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard are more likely than not to be confirmed, which means pretty much everyone will have been confirmed apart from Matt Gaetz, who dropped out. I mean, are you surprised at that? Did you expect more of them to fall down?
I am a bit surprised just because most presidents have a number of cabinet members who don't make it. But I think it is a testament to Donald Trump's complete control over the Republican Party. Look, I was elected to Congress when he was elected in his first term, and Republicans would kind of snicker behind his back and say, this was a fluke, he's not going to last. But to your point, I heard your earlier segment, I mean, this is the most popular he has been, and he certainly has complete control of the Republican Party.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing I think that people like is that Trump is doing a lot of stuff. Now, you may not agree with all of it, but I do think, leaders generally who act and do things that they said they were going to do when they were campaigning, they tend to be pretty popular.
Look, there's no doubt that he knows the politics of theatrics, and I don't say that dismissively. I mean, the visuals of him signing executive orders and the week of doing things and being energetic, I think it was a contrast to President Biden. I think one of our challenges with President Biden is he needed to be out there more, showing the energy. We had a lot of good policies of chips manufacturing coming back, batteries plants coming back, but we didn't show that sense of energy. The thing, though, I think Trump has to be careful about, I was just in Pennsylvania. I talked to someone who voted for him, who would still vote for him, and she said, well, I thought he was going to cut my taxes on overtime pay. I thought he was going to make sure that I didn't have tax on tips. Now, it's only 2 weeks in. I'm not one of those Democrats who's saying, well, the price of eggs are still up. I mean, give me a break. He's only been there 2 weeks. But if he doesn't focus ultimately on policies that help women like Tracy in Pennsylvania, his numbers are going to fall, and he's going to be judged ultimately around his economic agenda for the working class.
But the Democrats are going to have to find somebody that can lead them out of arguably probably the worst place Democrats have ever found themselves. I mean, the general scale of repudiation is right across the board from all groups of people in America. And at the moment, I'm just seeing very little in the way of a brave new world, of somebody putting their hand up and going, here's what I think we should be doing as a party for the country. Who is that person, and what's that message going to look like?
Well, here's the good news. We've seen that comebacks can happen very, very quickly in modern politics. And the American people for the last 10 elections seem to be going from one side to the other. I mean, if you had told people after January 6th that Donald Trump was going to be the president, let alone the nominee, they would have snickered. So I do think there's an opportunity with what Trump has done. He has bashed the status quo. He has bashed the establishment of both parties. There is a consensus that the policies of the past 40, 50 years have not been working. The first thing the Democrats have to do is say, we hear you. The status quo was not working. We know people have it rough out there. The trade deals that shipped jobs overseas were wrong. Letting China into the World Trade Organization was wrong. The over-financialization of our economy that enriched private equity while seeing hollowed out towns was wrong. Democrats were part of that. Democrats were part of having too much money from billionaires and millionaires, and now we're going to have an economic independence agenda for the working and middle class. And by the way, we're going to focus on that. One thing, you may disagree with Bernie Sanders, but I will tell you this. Those trans ads would never have worked against Bernie Sanders because everyone knew that Bernie Sanders was going to his focus was going to be healthcare and wages. And so part of what the Democrats have to do is our singular focus is going to be America's economic renewal and helping the working and middle class.
Yeah.
Now you're like, well, Bernie's been right all along. We know, dude. And it's a little late because it's a little late in the day for Bernie Sanders to be president. But I don't know. So we do definitely need to wait for it. AOC is making a nice splash for herself, but I think she's young and I think she's a woman. And I think those two things work pretty strongly against her with the population of this country at the moment. I also think that, Trump's policies are going to, the fires that he is lighting are going to burn, and he'll blame them on everything else. The question is, by the time the country wakes up and realizes this has been a bad deal from the beginning and that everything he said has been a lie, they may have dismantled things enough that it won't make a difference and we can't get him out of power. Let me know what you think in the comments.